intuition, psychicism and hallucination. So the gradation is like this. At the lowest rung is the big bum ego of hallucination. Boom, boom, boom. I am the Christ and I am Krishna. Either you're drugged, you're totally hallucinated. One guy was drugged. Let's talk about hallucination. This fellow got drunk. He had some drugs. I'm talking about hallucination at its best. So this young chap also took the drug, and he asked the other person, the other chap, he said, can you give me a darshan of Babaji? So that other chap who was teaching the younger fellow drugs, his answer is this, be careful. Why worry my secretary when I am here? Now that is hallucination. Now, another form of hallucination. There's another fellow, he said he was the Kalki avatar or something. So I said, okay, let's honor him. If he says he's Kalki, maybe Kalki, so I didn't tell. They gave me a book. So I just read one sentence. Till he's Kalki avatar, he's the greatest in the world, he's come to save the world and this thing. But he was still an avatar. I got one sentence, I just saw one sentence. He said, and as I looked down with compassion, this chap says, I saw my son suffering on the cross. I said, burn the book. He was trying to play God. So far he was not playing God. He was playing the avatar. That's okay. He is the second advent of Christ. He's the avatar. But in that he said, when I saw my son, that's God's statement. Because Jesus Christ was the Son of God. Now this is hallucination at its best. It doesn't even need an explanation. And many times, in lesser proportions, your ego to burst forth to be somebody special. The ego is a thing which is natural in everyone. I don't blame the ego. But it is such a strong drive in the human psyche that you cannot exist initially without the ego. If I rip it apart, you'll die. You have to gradually wean yourself away from the ego and try to be humble. O Lord, I am not the breather of this breath. Breathe thou as light and love through my spine and make me one with thee. I am not even breathing. I cannot take a breath, O Lord, unless thou give me thy breath. Of course, so hallucination is totally born from the ego. And there's such strong people. Another classic example of ego is this person. I never speak about a single person, but this person I will speak about because he went over the top. He changed about 100 names. Then he went to the disciple, he became his guru. He went to his guru's guru and became his guru. This was his hallucination. So this fellow suffered so much in hallucination that he died a wretched death. He tried to be a siddha. So this hallucination of the ego makes you want to be God, want to play God. Before you have the realization, your desires take the better of you. So it's totally involved in a wretchedness of desire, a wannabe for name and fame. You all are developing, you all will get spiritual powers, but you are not what you think yourself to be. You haven't reached the goal. So you can't discard the map. What is the map I've given you? The blue booklet. Your practice of Kriya Yoga is the map. So don't throw the map away before you reach the destination. You're in uncharted waters. The Guru is the lighthouse and the navigator. Stick to the Guru. So after hallucination, you get to a next state. You get out from your lust and desire body, your passion to become famous, your passion to exist, your passion to be Hitler, your passion to be a Genghis Khan, your passion to be Alexander, your passion to be someone world famous in a cutthroat competition of ego. Hollywood is nothing but a cutthroat competition of manicured egos. It's a place of cosmetic ego. So after you get out of this hallucination, you get to the next stage, which is psychicism. Now psychicism can be more dangerous than hallucination. The hallucinating fellow is a buffoon. He in any case says, I'm God, and Jesus Christ is my son. So they are mad, hallucinating people. When you get to psychicism, this is very prevalent in America. Why? Because it is the land of the free, and people think they can yappity yap. Now people have been controlled. America is the most restricted country as far as freedom of speech is concerned. Ethnic, racial speech. You can't talk about anything. You can't talk about God. It's an offense to talk about God. They had Moses' 10 commandments and God removed. Come on, this is America. You should be allowed to talk about God. So where's the equality of your speech, Americans? Where is your equality? Where's your justice? So it's a big goof up. But now where they can have freedom of speech is intuition, precognition, psychicism. So that's where you can have freedom of speech and say and be whatever you want. From Kali to Durga to Christ to Jesus to the Avatar to the Savior taking on the karmas of thousands of people. You cannot do that. Because your own karma, you're not free from your own karma. I want to burst your bubble right in the now, because it will save you in the future. Because when you die, instead of angels, the karmic retributors will be there to take you to Hades and finish off your karmic leisure. So you have to be in proportion to yourself. Everybody does that. We give ourselves big names, big titles. So always be servers of humanity, sevaks. So in the case of psychicism, which is dangerous because it is mixed between your own personal desires and the rays of intuition which are flashing in, can be, I'll tell you where psychicism can be right and where it can be wrong. If psychicism is driven by intuition for others, sacrifice for others, dying unto others, giving to others, it's more or less correct. You hit the upper chord. But if it's for self, if it's for false humility that I'm dying for others, I'm the avatar, I'm working out others' karmas, if somebody boosts you in that, that is wrong. That psychicism is wrong because it is motivated by your personal ego and desire. Desire is a dynamic aspect of ego, a wannabe. You cannot work out the karma of others unless you have worked out your own. This is very rare. This is very rare. Even I don't speak this. I know it is there with me, but you don't see me speaking about this, that I worked out the karma and I'm taking your karma. Of course I am, because I'm appearing to millions of people in their dreams at the same time, all over the world. So that's self-evident. And it's good to know that there's a person. It's good to know that there's a servant of humanity helping you. Call him servant or savior. It doesn't matter. The work's got to be done. But that's the way you have to distinguish between the Sadguru and the disciple. Disciple cannot do the work of the Sadguru, taking on the karma of others. This is the great fallacy in psychicism, which you have to be beware of, that this psychicism, and who's qualifying you, by the way? Only the Sadguru can qualify you, because he is in direct connection with you, not even another Sadguru, because they are not connected to you. The string lies here. The substantial technique. Can't you see and discern between a substantial technique and just simple mantras which are given? This is a powerful technique given by the world's greatest authority. The guru of all your gurus and all your guru matas are the disciples of the supreme non-being, from which the ancient science of yoga come. Now here's the steel rim which makes the cycle go forward. The Omkar Kriya, the Shiva Shakti Kriya, the Nabho Kriya, the Mahamudra, the Jyoti Mudra and the Paravastha. It forms the rim of steel. And if you have a cycle, if there are two rims, when you cycle, what happens? It goes forward. Right? But if I take a portion of the rim, the Nabho Kriya only, okay? So what one piece of steel and thin air, can that one piece of steel take you forward? Because it hasn't formed the rim. Have you understood? But, yes, you. I'm looking directly at you. Or am I looking through you? Maybe it looks like I'm looking through, right? Okay. So, now where does it come? Can I do this isolated technique? You can. It will help you temporarily for that disturbed state of mind you have. But you have always to do it in the sequence of complete technique for all-round evolution. Is that clear? Aye. You can do it isolation for that particular problem at that particular time. Aye? Aye. From psychicism, which is a very dangerous thing which you should beware of, what do we do then? Sit silent and do your Kriya Yoga, your Nabho Kriya, your Mahamudra, and be stable till you're 100% sure that you're the Christ, taking on the karma of others, which is not so, because the Christ has already been identified. Because people are innocent. One girl came to me and she was in the Himalayas. So we went to the Kedarnath waterfalls. So this girl comes to me, a young girl from Berkeley, and she says, well, Guru Nath, this is a beautiful waterfall. And I am going to go first to that waterfall, and I'm going to have a talk with the water. And you see that nobody else comes. I said, my God, this is some girl, she's dictating terms to the Guru. But she was like a child. They are like children, you see, they do not know. But if you explain, then they understand. So I say, she's telling me to keep watch while she goes and converses. This is the Kedar Ganga coming directly from the Jata of Lord Shiva. Of course, she's right here with us, but it was so hilarious. It was so funny that, and very strong-minded. Of course. So then I explained to her, I said, and then the seniors will go, then the acharyas will go, and then when we call everyone, then everyone will get a chance. So it's only a question. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm saying America needs to be tutored, and this is a process of tutoring. So that quality of confidence which that girl had has to be transformed into the willpower in her practice. So that has to be a willpower in her practice. And humility is your strongest point. Humility is the strongest point. If I say Babaji is Mahabinishkaran, the great sacrifice, that doesn't mean you all can be the great sacrifice. Because I'm speaking way beyond you. I hope that I have sufficiently clarified myself in this book. So, beware of psychicism. I do not say go to psychics or not go to psychics. I'm just telling you that the danger lies there. More often than not, when a psychic reads about you, they get often correct answer, because they are not selfish. The only thing is they take their money and then they focus on you. But you psychic yourself out is a dangerous thing. But they can again be wrong, because it's mixed with their material desire for that money in exchange of what they say. So psychicism is not always right. I do not qualify psychicism as a panacea for all your spiritual questions. And because of the mixture of two, the waters of your perception are sullied by the desires, the potential desires of what you want to be. The waters of your mind are polluted or contaminated by the desires. The ray of intuition is refracted. The ray of intuition, your desires in the waters of emotion, the moment it comes from here, it comes here. Have you seen a stick? If you put the stick in water, here's the surface of water, the stick is here, but it will appear here in the water. Do you understand? Refraction? Is it very clear? So why does the stick appear there? The medium has changed from the medium of air to the medium of water. So from the medium of spirituality to the medium of materialism, from the medium of pure perception to the medium of personal desire, the ray of intuition is refracted, is warped. I couldn't give a better example. If you don't understand, go home, take a big stick, put it in your swimming pool, and you'll see what I mean. It'll be right there. How many of you have done that or seen that? Raise your hands. Then what have you said to yourself?
Wow.
You said, wow, refraction. Did you know it was refraction? Eye? Yeah, it's been taught in school. So it's refracted, fractured. Now we get on to intuition. Intuition is not psychicism. Intuition is done by the buddhi. Psychicism is a mixture of your passions and your buddhi, your intuitive faculty. The body of intuition and the body of passion is mixed up, so refracted. But in this there is the pure body of intuition, which is called the buddhi. There is no manas or calm or desire in it. So when even that intuition to get into a pure state of intuition, you cannot. Because you have to go beyond buddhi, it comes beyond buddhi in samadhi. And intuition is more often than not in a state of, as I've told you, in a state of sabikalp samadhi. So you can get flashes of sabikalp samadhi, but nobody is as yet in sabikalp samadhi. You will be getting into it gradually. But that, don't ask the crow on the neighboring branch. Ask Sadguru Nath. Ask your Guru, why are you loitering and frittering around and fumbling around and bumbling around when the Guru is here, instead of asking me, making your own Jesus and your own Christs and your own saviors and messiahs and saving the people of their karma by thinking you're working on their karma. This is a very serious thing. It needs correction. And therefore be humble, number one. Practice your Kriya regularly. God knows who you are. In front of God, nobody is great. Yes. Anybody have got a relating question? Anybody got any question which is worth it? Come on.
I just get the sense, I know that I have plenty of karma and ego, but I just get the sense that with the practice of our Kriya, that we are becoming like foot soldiers for you, and maybe we're not taking people's karma, but in some way I have the sense that I'm sort of taking on something besides myself, like in my environment.
I'll tell you what you're taking on. Excellent question. Excellent question. Here's us. And for this life, we have our karma. And we are so used to our karma that we live our life. But behind us is a storehouse of the collective unconscious. All our past lives' karma. So somehow you're feeling you're taking on something is when you speed up your practice by Kriya, not the karma of one life, but the karma of 2 lives is put on you, and therefore you can be loaded. You can be loaded with karma. Many of the senior Kriyacharyas have that, but it's not the world karma, others' karma, it is your own karma. But you're doing double duty because you're taking on the karma of 2 lives in one life by practicing sincere Kriya Yoga. That's how somehow you feel you're taking on more. It is your own karma. Well done, Guru Nath. Well done. I had forgotten this. This is not for your clap. This is because I forgot a very crucial point. And this is a very good answer. That then why do we feel that we are taking on somebody's karma? It is not somebody's karma. It is from your sanchit karma, your storehouse of karma. See, there are 3 types of karma. One is your collective storehouse of karma of your past lives, a portion of which is given you in this life. That's sanchit karma. A portion of that collective karma, sanchit karma, which is given to you in this life, is called your prarabdha karma. But if you speed it by Kriya Yoga, you get more of the sanchit karma to quickly hasten you finishing your karma by Kriya Yoga. Aye? And the third is the creation of your new karma in future. So past, present and future. This is important.
Why does it seem like it's coming like that?
Your past karma is yet to come. Your present is your present, which is always the present, and your future karma is to be given to you. Does that seem to be a paradox? Your past is yet to come before you, it unrolls. Your future is given to you. Because it is your future, it may be your past karma, but in future your past will be given to you. So back to the future, faster than light. Your Kriya Yoga is very fast. Your Kriya Yoga, you're going faster than light. You're taking on more karma of your own than you can. Yes?
When we have experiences with you, when you're on the dais, say something and it is incongruent with something you say immediately later, is this how you force us to unify the duality? To reach internally, to get the gap between what you say to us personally and what you say to the collective?
You have to speed up your karma collectively. I'm focusing you on the point. To go only giving you that much as you can digest. Next question there.
Can you explain the relationship between spirituality, intent, and ego?
Okay, spirituality, intent and ego, they're different words in different dimensions. They're not correlated words. Spirituality, intent and ego. Okay, ego is the I maker, the I-ness. Anything I say, you take it personally. If I give one example, suppose there's a schizophrenic here. Say, oh shit, he's speaking about me. I'm the only one. Everybody is looking at me. Everyone, are my flaps open? Is my hair okay? So you do get schizophrenic when you're this thing. So that is, when you think about yourself, the ego, you know, is that. What was the first one? Ego, intent and spirituality, right? Ego. What were the three things? What were the three things you said? You forgot. You're getting zapped by transmission.
Ego, intent, and spirituality.
They're three totally different things, you know. Three totally different. So ego is the ego, the I maker, the I-ness, where everything is self-centered. You think it's around you and you're the greatest, you're the best and you're the most. Nice, good example of ego is Cassius Clay, who later transformed into Muhammad Ali, the boxer. I am the greatest. So that's ego. But his ego was turned into fact, so it no longer remained an ego, it became a statement when he did win the world championships. Still ego. Then intent. Intent means the purposeful mind. When you have an intention, you have a desire, you're focused on one object and you're intending to achieve that object. In the process of intending to achieve that object, you apply more willpower, and the more willpower you apply in achieving God or achieving the object, the more intensified is your intent. So the intensity of your intent depends upon the application of the volition. Your willpower qualifies the degree of your intent. Is that, you're making me use my own process for defining words. Is that correct? So intent and willpower are concomitant. So that is intent. Is there anything you want to ask about intent?
How much does intent affect what we manifest?
If intent is there to a very high degree, the manifestation can be immediate. Like Babaji materialized a palace in the Himalayas for Lahiri Mahasaya. But two people with the same degree of intent, one manifests the palace and the other cannot. What's the reason? Good answer. You guys should give it. Huh? What is preventing the other person from manifesting the palace while one, and the degree of concentration is the same? Ichha Shakti. Your karma. The other fellow is involved in karma with the same concentration. It's theoretical, of course. The concentration becomes totally absolute when you're free of karma. So you cannot manifest, Johanna, what Babaji manifests. Let me put all of us in our place. Since you say, it's not so easy. That's how it goes. You have to dissolve fanatism in spirituality. And spirituality is the third aspect. There's no fanatism. Spirituality is of the nature of spirit. It has no cult, no religion, no creed. It's a way of life. You are spiritual. You are being spiritual. Spirituality does not mean you can't be a family man. Spirituality does not mean you cannot have sex. Spirituality does not mean you cannot enjoy yourself. Spirituality means all these things and more. Spirituality means the enjoyment of life without ego is spirituality. I hope I've clarified what I had to clarify. It was in my throat. And I hope no sort of publicity will be done in relation to names, people, places or things which will offend or hurt others. If you want, take a personal reading, be very practical, and if there is any bombast, put yourself 3 steps lower and then gauge yourself from that angle. I've also told the Nadi people in India it's a great craze, and I've given them a small talking to. I will talk to them again to increase their sadhana, because I do not feel those readings are correct. I've sat in meditation, I've had a talk. One guy meets Lord Shiva and it's his only meeting and all. It's not so easy to meet Lord Shiva. Maybe he met his personal ego IDs, his personal self, a higher self. That is understandable, which comes from the ray of Shiva. But we cannot imagine ourselves as gods, not as yet. But we are special people. We can imagine ourselves as special people, as great people, as people being a servant of Babaji in humility and in love.
Ah.